Thank you. Thank you. I will feel great honor to be here today as the moderator and with our four honorable guests. And first of all, welcome to this panel discussion focused on the innovation development in fashion design. So today we have four honorable guests it's Dr. Jim Ajioka, Chief Science Officer of Colorifix, and Dr. Roxana Barbieru, CEO of TreeToTextile, and also Wesley, President of qonvolv Ventures, and also Mr. Craig Smith, Research and Development Director at PANGAIA. Okay, welcome. And welcome our honorable guests and the audience. Thank you. And fashion always be a powerful way to send a message to society. And from the Victoria rational dress advocating women's right to breathe, to introduce women's trousers for sports, fashion has driven culture change. So in the context, fashion design plays multiple roles that shape the industry's sustainable future. As a determiner, fashion design set the boundary of the objects. As creator, and the fashion design forced collaboration and engagement through the core design method and the practice. So by involve different parties, such as the product developer, manufacturer, and even business industry to help to achieve the industry sustainability. So ultimately, fashion design holds the key to unlocking the industry's great potential contribution to sustainability. So how to reuse innovative material, sustainable process, and the better production practice, and the even responsible business model to transform the fashion industry toward a more circular and eco-conscious future. So we are happy to invite our first speaker, Dr. Roxana, share an overview of TreeToTextile, the innovative solution for sustainable textile material. Please, Doctor.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you for the kind introduction and also for the invite. I'm really happy to be here. I know that the Fashion Summit had a delegation in June in Stockholm, and I'm really happy to return the favor. So our mission at TreeToTextile is really to redefine the leadership in the textile fiber industry. And our vision is better fibers to all. We are really committed to drive sustainability improvements on a global scale and also redefine what's possible in the textile fiber industry. And what do we do? At TreeToTextile, we have developed a new fiber production process using cellulose as source. And hence, we have developed a new cellulosic fiber, new process, new fiber. The fiber does not exist on the market today. It is really a breakthrough innovation. The production process has low climate impact because it has low demand for chemicals, for water, and also for energy. So responsible resource stewardship is really at the core of what we do. And we are using also better chemicals. This is extremely important moving forward. Switching to our fiber would result in lower emissions, up to 70 to 90%, compared to conventional textile fibers, such conventional viscose, cotton, and polyester. In addition, our fiber shows really strong technical features. It has properties of both cotton and viscose, and the brands really love the cotton handfeel. Also, it has strong peeling resistance, that means higher durability, and also color uptake. This is extremely important for a new fiber to deliver better performance in the whole value chain. And we are working on putting more data together to really quantify these benefits in the value chain. So we believe that based on an unparalleled environmental footprint and performance of our fiber, and also the unique functionality having properties between cotton and viscose, that the fiber will be among top choices across several categories in fashion, but also in the home textiles, while accelerating the transition to net zero. Sustainability is extremely important, is really at the core of what we do, and why we actually started the company. We started the company in 2014. And you can see here the jars. It shows the full process. And I would like to go back actually to this slide. And this is really a fashionable dress made together with a fashion designer. And it shows the journey of the value chain. It's, maybe you cannot see it, but it shows the wood chips up to the pulp, the cellulosic pulp, to the fiber and to the final garment. And the model that you see there is actually one of our operators working in the demo plant. So who we are? We are a Swedish-based company. As I mentioned, we were established in 2014. We are a technology and a fiber company. I think these two need to go hand in hand. We have strong owners, H&M, IKEA, Stora Enso, and LCCS Invest, which is the family of the inventor. Unfortunately, the inventor has passed away. We have a strong patent portfolio. We are driven by creating new knowledge. And right now, we have a footprint in Sweden. We are in the stage of ramping up the demonstration plant in the south of Sweden. And the next step is, of course, industrial plant. And we plan for multiple industrial plants and having a global footprint. But who is making it happen? I mean, this is extremely important. I mean, people make all the difference. We have 44 employees right now at the company and growing as we speak. And I'm extremely happy to take on this opportunity with a fantastic team of talented people that share the same extreme passion for sustainability and leading the change. So these people here, we are making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. I cannot agree more than that. You say that the team is actually critical for make the success. So thank you. So my next question will go to Mr. Wesley. And yes. And please introduce the technology and your investment strategy from the qonvolv Ventures in supporting the sustainability of the industry. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Gloria. Very glad to be here to introduce ourselves at Fashion Summit. And so first of all, we are called qonvolv Ventures, and you got the pronunciation right. We are part of the Textiles group, and probably is a name that a lot of people might not know as well. Textiles is actually a newly formed company at the beginning of the year, but it's a spin-off of a 45-year-old textile and apparel manufacturer. And it's formed specifically to try and adopt new approach, especially leveraging technology on how we can actually make garments, make textile in a more sustainable way. qonvolv Ventures is the corporate venture arm of it, and the name actually is also internally generated. We came up with the name. It's actually a play of the mathematical function convolution, which means mixing or entwining two inputs to create a new function. And here we mean putting human and technology together where we can create and hopefully achieve a sustainable future. So that's kind of the goal that we're trying to achieve with the corporate venture arm. So at qonvolv Ventures, we do both incubation and also external partnership investments. So because we have this kind of parent or mothership of a 45-year-old kind of textile and apparel manufacturing experience behind us, and a lot of R&D efforts and resources that have been put into the past decades. We selected a few technologies that we felt could create more significant impact to not just ourselves, but to the broader industry. We also invest in companies and emerging technologies that would also be very promising in achieving the same results. So here we try to limit our scope a little bit to 4 key areas. The first is on the manufacturing side. As a manufacturer, how can we actually achieve a much more efficient manufacturing process, leveraging technology, whether it's robotics, computer vision, or better management system, better quality system. So all these are things that we would either internally invest or actually externally partner or invest in startups. Second is we understand, I think everyone here knows that the fashion supply chain is very long and very complex. And with data, we believe that actually the use of data can help us create a lot of opportunities to improve the efficiencies, improve the speed to market, reduce waste in the entire supply chain. So we also look at opportunities within digital supply chain, digital value chain. The third is actually quite related to the panel today. It's about sustainability to the environment. So whether it's green process or green materials, different ways of manufacturing at different parts of the value chain that can make the process and the products more green. And the fourth one, I think, is I really like the last slide from Roxana. And this is actually about people, because when we talk about sustainability, I think we also need to think about the people. And in our company, we think about sustainability, not just about the environment, but about how we can actually make the work sustainable for people in the industry, especially because this industry employs a lot of people. And how can technology help improve the work, the type of work, and also how can we address the changing type of work the people might actually face, especially, for example, with AI, with ChatGPT, how are people going to actually have their work impacted? But with that, actually, it becomes opportunities for us to look at new startups and businesses that can actually create these new opportunities for the workforce. So I'm just going to very quickly not go through each one of them. These are the internal incubations that we have, but we cover different parts of the value chain. So we go from digital product creation, for example, leveraging AI in product development, in fabric and garment development, and to the manufacturing process, which includes both the dyeing process that we are very focused on, because in manufacturing of a piece of garment, it's actually a very polluting process when it comes to dyeing. So we have a couple of technologies in salt recovery and also what we call the waterless dyeing to help reduce the water pressure, and also basically to relieve ourselves from having to spend so much water, waste so much water in just producing one piece of garment. We also have our own automation. It's not just really about, when we talk about automation, it's not really about eliminating labor, but about how we can actually produce garments to a stable and consistent quality and also efficiency. That actually helps drive a lot of savings in the supply chain. And we also leverage technology in the IoT sense, where we can develop smart label solutions that can help with things like warehousing and also even at the end for customer analytics. So very quickly, maybe highlighting the waterless dyeing technology. This is actually what we believe to be the first industrial scale technology for cellulose fiber waterless dyeing. And I'm actually wearing a shirt today that's made with that technology. With the little photograph at the corner, this is actually our first capsule collection that we worked with a brand, Determinant, at the beginning of, 2 months ago. So we just launched our production line in April, and this is actually the first products that rolled out from the production line. A quick summary of what we can achieve, but obviously if you want to look for more details, please scan the QR code or follow us on LinkedIn. Our technology helps us basically remove all the water during the dyeing process. Here you can see we only save, 95%, not 100%, but this is because we still need a little bit of water before and after dyeing for pre-treatment and for finishing. So we're trying to work on that, but still, yeah, there's a little bit of water that's needed. We remove all the salt in the process, and actually we save a lot of dye stuff. So we cut down dye stuff by about 40%. The time needed for dyeing is also reduced by 50%. That means for the same dye vat, you can actually dye more tanks and more materials in the same time space. It also saves basically your time and make it fast react to something that's much easier to achieve. So this is just a quick summary of what we do. And yeah, I think that Jim actually has something a little bit similar, but on a different side. But yeah, we can probably exchange more afterwards as well. And yeah, one last word, I think it's very important for us to look for collaboration partners. So we launched the first capsule in August. We definitely hope for more collaboration later on with different brands and also technology partners.
Yes, thanks, Wesley. Shared your investment strategy and also mentioned a very critical technology, waterless dye. And all of us know the dyeing technology actually is a critical part for the industry achieve the sustainability. And today we are honored to have Dr. Jim here introduce his revolutionary dye technology. Please, Dr. Jim.
Thanks, Gloria. Before I start, I just want to echo everything that you guys have already said, so I don't have to bother talking about it myself. I think going towards more sustainable processes is really important, both from production of the textile itself and also the dyeing processes, but also that we do need collaboration across the new technologies, because no solution is going to be perfect, okay? And I think we need to recognize that and just go forward, because we don't try to change what the current industry is, we're in trouble. Okay, so I'll just cut to the chase. I represent Colorifix. We're trying to build a new way of dyeing textiles. The real problem has been outlined a lot this morning. That is the wet processing. This is the worst part of for sustainability. In this case, this represents the problem. It's water and it's chemicals. Okay, so when we look at the amount of water that's used in the textile industry, we're looking at 5 trillion liters of water annually. That's approximately a lot, okay? It's several million Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water every year. There's 70 plus chemicals that are really bad for the environment, and you can't get most of them out of the water. And also, crucially, the process as it stands now is really not very efficient. Even if you use reactive dyes and some of the other processes, we're still losing about 200,000 tons of dye stuff back into the waterway, and that's really not acceptable. Okay, so how does our process work? It's really very simple. Everybody's seen this, okay? You look at the leftmost panel, that's mold and mildew stains. You've seen this in your bathroom, you've seen it on your tea towels, you might have even seen it in your clothing if you're lazy like me and don't dry them properly at the beginning. The middle panel is a bacteria that makes a nice red color. You've probably seen this also in your bathroom. Okay, what do these two things have in common? They make biofilms, okay? The rightmost panel is an electron micrograph of bacteria on a surface. That's what they do everywhere. They do it in your gut, your mouth, on surfaces outside. Microbes, bacteria, fungi, they do not like being in solution. They like being on surfaces. So that's why our process works. Okay, so what we do is we can now genetically engineer and modify microbes. That's really important because we can choose a color in nature, find out the genes that are responsible for making that color, the genetic material that's responsible, code that into the microbe, and then let it go. We can then brew this in giant fermenters that are akin to brewing beer, but fortunately the microbes like to be on surfaces. They don't like to be in solution, so they'll migrate towards the surface and stick. And once they stick, they start secreting the color that they've made, and then it gets fixed and deposited onto the surface. And the right panel is just some of the colors that we've made to this date. Okay, so this is an important point. The efficiency of the process is high. Okay, so the leftmost flask is just media. It's sort of like a really nice soup for bacteria. It's got all the food that they need to eat. The middle panel, or the middle flask, is after the bacteria have grown and made their colors. You can see it's very dense, it's very dark. Now, after you put a piece of fabric in, which is below, after a couple of hours, all the bacteria stick to the fabric and you have very little left. And so the rightmost flask is what's left. And it's almost completely clear of bacteria and any other dye stuff. So as you can see, the process is extremely efficient. And this is really important for our process to work well. Okay, so there's some metrics that are important. So everybody's talking about how do we assess what our sustainability metrics might be. For us, it's looking at a life cycle analysis in a dye house. As a scientist and engineer, I like numbers, okay? It's hard for me to look at algorithms that talk about carbon footprint and those sort of things because I don't know what's underneath it. But if you put a meter to a gas pipe or a meter to electricity or a meter to water, I can get that because you can directly get the numbers and compare what they are to the conventional. And we can do this directly in the dye house. This also tells the dye house how much money they're going to potentially save. So the big metric here is, and this is done on polyester cotton blend, okay? You probably know more about this than I do, but apparently you have to dye it twice in a conventional dyeing process, which requires not only a lot of water to do the dyeing, but it also requires a lot of water to wash. And the energy is high because you have to heat it up to very high temperatures, where most of our process happens at room temperature. Okay, so the chemicals you save just because, well, everything's chemical, so the food itself is considered chemical, so it doesn't look that great. The water, on the other hand, is huge for polycotton. You can save almost 80% in terms of water. Okay, the electricity looks a little bit weak, but the reason why this is because we're counting the electricity that goes into running the fermenter, okay? We're making the dye at that point. We're not using it for the dyeing process itself. Okay, so it includes that. That's why that number looks low. So that would be sort of compared to the electricity you'd use to make the dye in the first place in the petrochemical process. So we don't count that because we can't measure any of the petrochemical numbers, so we just eliminate them from our LCA because it's just impossible to know. The gas, on the other hand, is pretty high, our savings there. So across the board, we save quite a bit, but this matters to the dye house because this is where they're going to save money. Okay, how many of you are students out there? I normally lecture to students in Cambridge. This is not my normal sort of thing. Are there students out there? Raise your hand if you are. There's no students out there. I can't believe there's no students out in the audience. Okay, well, maybe you're scared to raise your hand. I don't know. Cambridge students are, if you do a bad lecture in Cambridge, they start throwing paper darts at you out of the lecture theater. So it's a pretty hard audience. Anyway, the point is, this is for you. I think most of us here, well, certainly I'm way too old for this to matter too much. But this is our Earth, okay? This is a picture that was taken, well, before all of you were born, probably. This is Apollo 8. And I have a personal connection to this because my father designed the antenna system for communicating with the astronauts. And so this was a picture that was taken as they were orbiting the moon, the first time they'd orbited the moon. And it's probably the first high-resolution picture of the Earth, okay? If you notice it, you look at it, and this is one of the things I saw when I was really small, when I was young. Well, I wasn't that young. I was 8 or 9. Looking at the Earth, and you realize that the weather patterns, all the continents are connected. So anything we do in one place is going to affect wherever else we go. And so it really does matter that we try to address the global climate change problems that we're having, and a lot of the other things that we do socially as well, and we can get onto that later. But seeing the Earth from this, to me, was shocking because nobody had ever seen it before. But just the interconnectedness. We live on a very small planet, so it's just a shout out to you that are students. This is your future. I'm probably a bit old for this, but so pay attention.
Thanks, Dr. Jim. And accepted the Colorifix successful, actually they are a background story from the business model, the innovative business model. So it's a good opportunity to help us understand more how to create a good case of business model to support the sustainability of it. So, please.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to say it's a pleasure to be on this panel with great speakers, and thank you to the organisers for the invitation. So I wanted to give a little bit of context to PANGAIA, who we are, why we operate in the way we operate. As most people will probably know PANGAIA as probably a fashion brand, or possibly a brand that creates brightly coloured hoodies, t-shirts and sweatpants. But I'm here to hopefully dispel some of that myth. But we're actually positioned as a material science company, and the owners, when they set out on this mission to create the brand, really wanted to create an entity that was founded in a purpose, which is to drive earth positivity, to have a connection to innovation and science, and be able to showcase that in different forms, and ultimately design products that are desirable and fit in with this whole kind of narrative around the purpose and the science. So connecting all those three together is really what is unique to PANGAIA, and really the goal is to accelerate the adoption of next generation materials and technologies and make them accessible, make them the norm, and really democratize access to them. We do have a various impact pillars and alignment to the UN SDGs, which I won't talk about now, but really what I wanted to talk through was how we work with innovation, obviously given the panel discussion here. So what we're trying to offer and try and or ways we're trying to work with innovators is to give different partnership avenues and different ways to collaborate with us. So we have an early stage innovation platform we call PANGAIA Lab, which Colorifix were a part of. And the goal is really to get innovation out. It's to showcase it, not just have it as a single item that sits in a design museum somewhere, but something that a consumer can actually purchase. So everything you see on the screen here has been sold to consumers in some kind of volume. And what you can see here is an array of technologies from bacteria-based dyes to lab-grown fibers to recycling technologies, even carbon capture utilization technologies as well. So very, very broad, and as I say, this is intended to be disruptive, intended to be new, to energize that early adopter, that consumer who wants to work with or have access to technology very, very early, and showcase that these technologies are commercially viable, and all of that is aimed to accelerate the adoption of them more broadly. When we flow over to more commercial technologies that fall into PANGAIA brand, these are ones that we've developed internally and in-house with the team. So we have everything here from flower down, which is our proprietary down technology that is both fossil fuel free and animal free. So a unique proposition there. And we work with everything here from regenerative cotton to agricultural waste streams in terms of like the fruit fiber development you can see here, as well as perhaps some more interesting novel fibers that have been available for a long, long time, but ultimately not utilized effectively like nettle. So a huge array of things that we push internally here. And as I say, this kind of balance of partnerships and innovation connections when it falls through to PANGAIA Lab, and then internal developments and processes that comes to PANGAIA brand. The latter stage of that is our connection to industry. So we also work in a B2B model where, as I say, if we have an option to work with innovators or technologies in different orders of magnitude, really our goal is to get things to scale. And we are very honest and acknowledge that we are not the biggest brand, and ultimately we shouldn't hold on to technology. So the goal is to have PANGAIA as a de-risking vehicle, a showcase of technology and innovation, but ultimately to democratize access to it, and that's through the business-to-business channel. And these are the areas we play within. So 5 key research buckets that we work across. Biodiversity, which was born out of a need to move away from conventional cotton. And you'll find things, as I mentioned, like regenerative cotton in there or alternative fiber types. And then things such as bio-based alternatives or carbon capture mechanisms for synthetic fibers, so moving away from anything fossil fuel derived. Animal alternatives as it pertains to down or leather alternatives. Water health, which is where we get into the dye finishing discussion here, and waste reduction being the final aspect of that, which is looking at both product and textile to textile recycling. A little bit of an overview of our kind of global footprint, which I won't touch on now, but this is actually where I wanted to spend a little bit more time and hopefully lead into some of the discussion we're going to have now. But where we're trying to operate is what is conventionally known as the Valley of Death. And that sounds quite grim, and it can be for some people. But ultimately, how we connecting academia to an industry, industrial application, and industrial scale. There tends to be a huge gap between these when it pertains to funding, volume, and commercial viability for technologies. So we're trying to operate in this space where we're trying to pull academia over to industry. And this isn't a mean feat, and I'm sure a lot of the panelists can talk to this challenge as well. But trying to push towards commercial scale is very, very challenging if you don't have collaboration and partnerships in that space. So that's why we have these kind of 3 avenues at which we're trying to work through. But as I say, ultimately acknowledging that we aren't the only people operating in this space, and we're certainly not perfect. But ultimately to bring more technologies to scale and to change the way we're operating right now, we need to force things and move them into an industrial application to really make them relevant. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Greg. And I fully agree with you how difficult the research part go to the commercial work. And great you share a good case for us. So Dr. Jim's dyeing technology quickly moved to the market with PANGAIA. So I think that is a very attractive case to me, and I think to most of the audience. So follow up this, you already shared your strategy how to make it happen, but still I would like to understand more how you communicate with the academia, the engineering, the branding, the business. So this niche, how to make the communication very effective and make the things move on in so short time. Yeah, I know it's very quickly move the technology from the technology from Colorifix to the PANGAIA. Yes, please.
Okay, well, my mic's working. The transition from academia wasn't too bad because it came out of my lab, my academic lab in Cambridge, so that was pretty simple, actually. What was harder, though, was to get the university to be engaged with it, because engineering biology is a fairly new discipline. The university didn't really understand what that meant with regards to a completely separate industry. They understood things like going to biomedical applications pretty well, but they didn't understand going into textiles at all. So it was really difficult to get them engaged. And that's usually your first port of call. If you're going from an academic labs, you go through your business development group in the university. That was really difficult. So we ended up essentially having to go out to try to find venture money in the first instance, okay? And we were reasonably successful at that because there were people out there that were interested in impact investing, and so they looked at what we do and they thought, well, that might be a potentially good application for engineering biology, and we'll give it a go. But then you have to find partners to work with. Thankfully, there's a really good network of people out there once we got exposure into the textile industry. And one of our connections was through the Miroslava Duma group, who obviously are connected with PANGAIA, and that's how we got involved with PANGAIA. So a lot of it's just networking after that, and I'm sure that we will continue to network and probably do some interesting projects together with people even on this panel aside from PANGAIA?
So yeah, from the PANGAIA perspective, as Jim mentioned, I should have prefaced that PANGAIA is ultimately a spin out from a VC, and part of that VC's approach was to invest in early stage innovation and technology and try and commercialize it and bring it to scale. And they found that the brands that they were working with were either moving too slowly to adopt technology or didn't have the teams or infrastructure to support it. So they created PANGAIA with that mission and ultimately obviously built up a great network because of the work they've been doing on a VC front. And, you know, I guess fortunate that the business was founded in London, Colorifix are in Cambridge, so there was a nice kind of closeness and proximity there. But if you reflect on the research pillars that I pulled up earlier, what Colorifix are doing is a perfect representation of what that water health pillar is trying to tackle. And some of the panelists mentioned this earlier, but there's different factors to dyeing and finishing that you're trying to tackle. One is the inputs, so the pigments, the auxiliaries, the dyes, and the process itself. These guys are tackling both, which is obviously no mean feat, but lots of ways to try and tackle that. And we're also fortunate that there's the third party at play here in this kind of collaboration that is a supply chain partner that we have a joint venture with and has worked very closely with Colorifix. So again, having a supply chain and a collaboration model that wants to work with innovation and accepts that it's progress, not perfection.
Great sharing. Yeah. Thank you. I hope can see more similar cases happen in our industry. And then I move to the question to Dr. Roxana. TreeToTextile, actually, the material development is very successful. And I also would like to know what's your plan for scale up? Is there any challenges from this?
Definitely. The challenges are multidimensional. First of all, I would like to say that the brands love our fiber. Actually, the whole supply chain loves our fiber, especially the cotton handfill. And everyone wants us to succeed. This is fantastic. This is really fantastic. And when we have open positions for applicants, we actually don't advertise so much, but we have hundreds of applicants. And that really made us realize that the strong purpose that we have, sustainability is such a strong purpose. I think everywhere it will continue to be. But of course, as I said, the challenges are multidimensional. It is a disruptive innovation, and the challenge is that it takes time. As much as I would love to accelerate, there are limitations. So we really need to have the patience to get there, especially when we develop disruptive innovations. Not cut corners, because you have from the lab development to the pilot and so on and so forth, to validate the technology and also to improve the fiber, and finally to reach the commercial scale. So patience is needed. Acceleration is possible, but there are limits. And of course, there are implications for that on the capital side, of course, but many other applications as well. The second challenge is, of course, to have the capabilities, the right capabilities on board from the beginning. And I'm not referring here only to the scientists, the engineers, but also to have the right leadership, the right management team. I think these times really require a new type of leadership, bold and also collaborative. We need really to elevate ambitions, because if we do that, will force us to think differently. So we need bold leadership at all the levels. Then I would say a third challenge is opportunity as well, to have the right investors, the right customers, and also the right strategic partners on board. Ideally, customers should be investors in the company, but of course this is an ideal situation. But of course, we can work with customers in the whole market to commercialize the technology. We will need offtake agreements from the market. We need to not forget that the fiber production industry is still a capital intensive industry and requires a lot of investment. And investors, customers, and partners, they need to share the same mindset and the same values. From our side, we always try to engage as early as possible with the value chain because we need to understand how the fiber is performing in the different applications. And at the same time, it's important for the value chain to actually engage with us with a technology that is not perfect yet, but has the potential to get there.
Yeah, I think that's the truth of R&D, from the lab and to the industry to the market. They are a path. And how to accelerate the technology go to the market, I think partnership is the critical. And the PANGAIA and the Colorifix demonstrate a perfect case here. And next question would like to go to Wesley. So when you consider investment technology or a company, what's the key criteria?
This is a very difficult question. First of all, I need my team who's sitting here and to do a lot of research to understand the basics of the technology. We look at technology. We want to make sure that technology is actually quite tricky because we want to invest in technology that's a breakthrough. But a lot of the time, a breakthrough technology actually takes a lot of time to actually get to the market and to scale that it can become cash generative and actually can be adopted by the market. So I think it is very important for us to actually understand where the technology is originated and how it's going so that we can, at least from the technology side, see the roadmap of how the technology is actually going to go. On the cost side, I think cost is actually one very big factor when we talk about commercialization. So I think cost definitely is very important. And secondly, I think it's really about having the team in the startup or in the technology side that they actually have both the plan to drive technology forward and also to think about commercialization. I think especially with the economy, with the rather tough fundraising environment these days, it is important for companies to have a clear path, not just about how to develop technology, but how we can actually, through this journey, can maybe partner with someone, some brands, for example, PANGAIA, to test the market and maybe generate some income as well, so that it actually can become a virtuous cycle. And I think it is very, very, very revealing that when Craig showed the value of death, we actually have invested in some company that seemed very promising in the beginning with the technology and some investors and supporters, but eventually it just took too long to get to drive the cost down or to find scalable kind of traction that they eventually had to fold. And this is definitely something that's very sad. And so I think collaboration throughout the way, maybe with different partners, whether it's technology partners or with brands, and having the plan and the focus to drive that would be something that we look at very specifically when we look at investments. And that's also actually, I think it's helpful that we also have our internal venture arm, because we are trying always to think about how can we start to have some revenue, how do we generate some revenue while we try to perfect the technology. We want to make sure that we don't lose ourselves in trying to get the technology to maybe 99% perfect before we rolled it out. Maybe we should get it out when it's 70, 80%, but we find the right partner who would accept something that is not perfect, but we can continue to work together to make it perfect later on.
Yeah, I think, thanks very much for your sharing. I think that's very helpful for me and for the research guys. I think they will give us insight how to make our technology develop more close to the market. And probably some technology actually have multiple applications and the different application could be the source of market and the money, the profit. So great hearing, thank you. And run out almost of time, so probably each of you gave one conclusion for this panel discussion. Roxana, please.
Yes, I would love to see more collaboration in the value chain, and I would love to see us being to be bolder, really moving forward and solve the challenges together. I think moving forward, we really have a fantastic opportunity to create long-lasting value on a strong foundation, because that foundation is based on sustainability.
Thank you. Wesley?
I think it's very similar to what Roxana said. It's basically we want to seek more partners in collaboration to push the technology and drive it to faster adoption. And someone, for example, like PANGAIA is definitely a great partner. And we hope to look for a lot of partners like that because I think traditionally a lot of brands might be a little bit slow in adopting technologies and maybe in accepting something that's less than perfect. But I think if we realize the importance of sustainability and creating something that's different from the status quo, we actually need to take some risk. So hopefully we can have, we can find more risk-taking partners and kind of push this sustainability agenda together.
Thank you. And Dr. Jim, please.
Yeah, so this goes back out to the students because you guys are going to inherit the earth, right? So one of the things that isn't addressed in most of this, and this includes the technology, is that the consumer matters, okay? And buying things matters, okay? So this jacket I'm wearing, I bought when I was 14 years old, okay? It's now over 50 years old. I can still wear it. I challenge you guys to have things, you design things, you manufacture things properly so that you can have something that lasts 50 years, because we do have to figure out how we're just not going to throw away our clothes. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I would echo a lot of the comments that have already been made, but I would probably just end on a comment that is, don't let perfection stand in the way of good, where we need to test, trial, and learn in order to shift to these new technologies and materials. And ultimately, we're trying to replace materials that have been used for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So it's going to be a challenge. It's going to need patience. And as I say, we have to test, trial, and learn to move into a new future.
Thank you. And a great thanks for our honorable guests, and also thanks for your participations. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yo, and all our speakers. Let's take a group photo.